So today on the Sunday morning, we all are together to discuss about the spiritual essence, spiritual significance of Dussehra. Um, we all can see how we Indians celebrate all the festivals with a lot of zeal and enthusiasm. And every festival which we celebrate in India, it has some spiritual significance. Dussehra doesn't only mean that we dress up well, we do some puja, and then we go out with kids, and then we have a good time. We burn the Ravana, and we come back, and the Dussehra is over. And next year, we will celebrate the Dussehra again. If we closely reflect, every festival has something to tell us, has something that we should imbibe and become. So from Dussehra, we should not only celebrate it, but we should try to become a better person using the spiritual significance that Dussehra teaches us. So in today's session, we will discuss about a few pointers, few learnings from practical learnings from Dussehra festival, whereby it's just not a one-day thing. We are inculcating and imbibing the lesson learned from Dussehra into our lives so that we can live a better life, we can lead a better life, thereby, reducing the Ravana, which is, or getting rid of the Ravana, which is there inside of us, right? So practically, we will discuss that how one can get over the Ravana that is on the inside, because in order to win the Ravana which is outside, we need to win the Ravana which is inside of us. So we need to practically check and apply these lessons from Dussehra. Number one lesson is uh, Dussehra is a symbol of victory of good over evil. So it always teaches us to have patience, to have faith, to have courage in life. So whenever we face some opposite circumstance, challenge, or situation in our life, Dussehra teaches us these three things or gives us three capsules. And these three things are to be patient, to be courageous, and to be faithful, right? If we have these three things, we can cross any situation in our lives. So there will be situation, there will be some or the other misdeed, mishappening. There will be people who will be taking our test papers on a daily basis. But the Shera always teaches us to have faith in good. Just like it is said that bad time will also have its bad time, right? It is not possible that if any situation has come into my life, it will always stay. So the Shera, it teaches us to have patience in our lives. So whenever I have patience in any given circumstance, in any given situation, may it be very opposite, may it be very wrong, uh, automatically the situation will change. Automatically the state of mind will change. It is not possible that even if you would want that any situation, any specific circumstance should remain the same, it is not going to happen. Just like if you get a wound, if you get a cut on your finger, it is not possible that cut is always going to remain. It is obviously automatically going to heal itself. So it is always said that no night has the power to stop the dawn from coming, to stop the morning from coming, right? It is not possible that any situation in life is going to stay forever, because change is the only constant in this world. We can also see the word sansar. Sansar is made from two words, that is sam and saram, which means ever changing. So this world is ever changing. You never meet the same person twice. So we cannot say that any situation is going to stay with us forever. If there is any situation, any circumstance, you hold on to a good state of mind, automatically that situation is going to change. So number one lesson which we have to inculcate and imbibe from the Dussehra is to have patience, because it is always going to happen that good will win over evil. And sometimes what happens is, we switch to evil because goodness doesn't show results. And that is why many people these days says that only bad people, corrupt people, they have good days. It is not going to be like that. Everyone have their karmic accounts. they must have done some good karmic accounts in the past, and that is why even if in the present they are doing some wrong karmas, they are facing good repercussions because they had a good past karmic account, right? So never ever think, even during the times of COVID, there were many people. They were talking. I could remember that I was standing in a group of chartered accountants, and they were discussing about the COVID issue, and they said that karma or anything like that doesn't exist because we have seen a lot of good people leaving their bodies in corona. So in the present time, sometimes it feels that negativity is winning over the positivity, but the Sherite reminds us that even Ravana was very powerful. All the balls were in his court. Every situation was favoring him. Even after that, he had to lose the battle because he was on the side of evil. So always, always, always in your lives, have this funda, have this principle very clear that I have to stick to goodness. I have to be patient. Goodness will sometimes it will demand patience, it will test you, it will check you. But at the end, just like in many Bollywood movies, just like we see in our lives that a good person always wins somehow. So always hold on to positivity, goodness, and never give up on goodness, right? So the Shera teaches us to be on the side of good, to have patience in our lives, to have faith and courage in our lives. So this is the number one lesson, which is a very deep and basic lesson which we all shall apply in our lives. No matter how much planning, plotting we can do, how much we can plan against someone, it is always going to come back. So I will share a personal story, a personal example from my life. You know, 4 to 5 years, not 4 to 5, I suppose 7, 8 years back, when I was not in this knowledge, I went to see a cricket match, and I didn't had the tickets. I thought from stadium I will buy it from someone. So there was a lot of crowd, and the tickets were not available. So there was a guy who was selling tickets there for some higher rates, and as I was willing to watch the cricket match, I decided to buy the tickets from him. And as soon as I bought the ticket, I went to the guard to show him my tickets. He said that those tickets will not work because it has already been used. So I realized that someone has misutilized those tickets or has given me wrong tickets. So as I was then there was no chance that I could watch the match, and then I decided that I will leave the stadium. So as I was leaving, I had no intentions of further selling those tickets to anyone else, but there was a guy who randomly came to me and asked me about the tickets. So at that moment I felt that, oh, even I have suffered the losses, so why not to make my loss good? And I decided to sell those tickets to that guy for 200 rupees, just to make my loss good with no intentions of any other intentions. But at that moment, I could only think about doing my loss good. So I sold those tickets to him for 200 rupees. And as I went to the parking, I put a hand in my pocket, and I could see that those 200 rupees were not there. So that is the moment I realized that, I did a wrong karma, and that was the instant karmic result. It could have, I could have got that result maybe after 10 days, 15 days, maybe after 10 years, but that was certainly going to come back to me. But as it came back very immediately, very instantly, I realized that it was a wrong karma. And this is just a short example, but any wrong karma we do is obviously going to come back to us. So we cannot do planning, plotting, or we cannot cheat our own fortune. So always, always take the side of right karmic account, doing the right things in life. So this was the number one lesson which we can inculcate from the Shera. Number two is killing the Ravana, which is there within all of us. Uh, we all have some negative habits. That is, we all have a Ravana inside of us, and also we have Ram inside of us, which means we also have some positive habits. We have inculcated some positive habits. Now, what is important is to have self-checking, a very powerful self-checking. If you really want to progress in life, this is the one principle that you have to apply, which we at the Brahmakumaris, we call it check and change, which means we have to always keep a check on ourselves, just like we keep a check on other people, just like a mother keep a check on his child, his marks, his education. In the same way, we don't have to be blinded by our vices. Why I'm saying this? Because in this world where everyone has some or the other flaw, it is very easy to point out flaws in others, but it is very difficult to self check and see our own flaws. I will share again. I'll share a very simple example from my own life. One day I was with a friend of mine, and we were having a meal, afternoon meal, which is lunch. So while having lunch, we were communicating, and he told me that in today's time, people, they are very crazy about eating, and they don't know how much quantity to take in plate. They would take a lot of stuff, a lot of food in their meals, and they will always overeat. To which I agreed, and I realized that yes, what he's speaking is very true. That in today's time, a lot of people tend to eat a lot of food because because some of the other reasons, because maybe they are empty, because they like eating. But as soon as I observed the plate, the meal of the other guy who was talking to me, I realized that even his meal, there was a lot of food in that. So that is the moment I realized that we can always point out and look at the plates of others and say something that uh, he has taken so much food, or some of the other flaw we can always take out. But it is very difficult to check, just see the plate which is there in front of me, with the plate which I am using for myself, and realize that even I have taken a lot of food, extra food, or even I am overeating, because we all have blind spots. We all justify, and that is why when we talk about Ravana, the word which comes first is the ego. What made him, even though he was very powerful, he was Balshali, um, he was defeated, and that there was only one reason for it, and which was his ego, right? So that is where our ego comes in between. We see our flaw and we try to justify the flaw. uh, just for instance, if suppose I got angry to on some person, I would always justify it. If I have ego, I'll always justify by saying that it was his flaw, he always does like this. That is why I got angry. I am usually not angry. So what happens is, as we have blind spots, we always tend to justify our flaws, and we feel that yeah, I am doing this because of this thing, and that is where the checking it skips, and we always perform the wrong karma, and that is why we have to self check and kill the ravana which is inside of us, because we all have some or the other negativity. Just like Swami Vivekanand, in one of his very famous quotes, he said that if I can hate others at the glimpse of only a few flaws, how can I love myself at the glimpse of only a few qualities? And this is what happens in our lives. We would always tag people with one of the negative qualities, which is obviously there in that person. There's no doubt that flaw is not there, not there. Obviously some or the other flaw will be there, but we focus on that flaw, and we justify our own flaws, and we focus on our good uh, things, good deeds, right? So it is very important that if you really wish to progress in your life, always make sure, just like you observe others, you have to observe yourself, and write down your smallest of flaws and shortcomings, and always keep on working towards overcoming that thing, right? This is a very, very important point. And someone's negativity uh, don't allow me to become negative. If suppose someone is doing wrong, sometimes we say na that he did this wrong thing, that is why I got angry. He lied to the other person, that is why I got angry. But my karma is my responsibility, even if it is in the response of other person's negative karma. Just for instance, suppose there are two agricultural lands, one belongs to a friend and one land belong to you. If the other person, he uh, uses that agricultural land for growing weeds, for growing all the negative things, it doesn't, you will not grow negative things in that, right? You will not grow weeds in that. Why? Because you know that the outcome is something which I have to use. Similarly, if someone is doing wrong in their life, I have to always make sure that by seeing that wrong person, the other person doing wrong karma, I don't have to change my karma. Again, I'll share an example. Once there was a friend of mine who has this habit of speaking a lot and talking a lot. And sometimes, you would feel that, please keep quiet. I want to be, calm. I want to be peaceful. I don't want to talk so much. So there's this guy, this individual who had this habit. So once, I had a session, and that session didn't go very well. And on the next day, I realized that whenever we speak a lot of waste, it happens that, the quality of speech, it changes in the session also. So that is the moment I realized that being in the company of that individual, I was, I was doing this negative thing, which I used to speak a lot. And that is the day when, I felt that that person was wrong, and I started behaving not nicely with him. And after a few days, I realized that even though he was wrong, I was not supposed to be behaving like that with that person. So this is what happens sometimes, that we try to teach the other person a lesson by behaving in a wrong way with that person. So this is very important, that by seeing others, you don't change your own karmas, because you have to cut the deeds you have done, right? You have to pay for the deeds you are doing. So always make sure that you self-check yourself, um, and you ensure that you are not always checking only the other person. Now, this brings us to the third lesson, which Dussehra teaches us, is to let go of these 10 vices we all have within ourselves. Ravana, you see, it had 10 uh, heads, right? And it was shown that whenever Rama used to hit him, there was one head which used to go down, and after a few minutes, that head used to come back. So we all have these 10 vices within us, and these 10 vices are Kam, which means lust, Krodh, which means anger, Lobh, which means greed, Moh, which means attachment, Ahankar, which means ego, then Grina, which means envy, then Alasya, which means laziness, then Hat, and then Chal, which means killing someone. So we all have these 10 vices within ourselves. And in order to get rid of these 10 vices, what we need to do is just like as Rama was hitting Ban to the heads, to the individual heads of the Ravana, he was not winning over the Ravana. Why? Because after every now and then, a new head would pop up, right? Similarly, what happens is we try to individually win over these vices. How? Sometimes when there is anger, we try to make sure that I'm not getting angry. We try to be conscious about getting angry. We try to talk to ourselves. Similarly, when we see that I'm getting greedy in something, or maybe I'm getting lustful thoughts, we try to control each, vice individually. But just like as Rama was not able to kill the Ravana, to win over the Ravana by hitting the heads, what he did, he focused the instrument at the center of the stomach of Ravana, which is Nabi. And similarly, we have to get rid of these vices. We don't have to fight each vices separately. We have to just use the uh, main thing which Rama did, and that main thing is to become soul conscious. When we become soul conscious, which means I realize that I am an energy beyond this body. because these vices are nothing but the result of body consciousness. So when I realize that I have to get over body consciousness, I have to become soul conscious, which means I am seeing everyone equally, which means I am seeing myself as not male or female, as not young or old. I am seeing myself as the soul. And when I see myself as the soul, what happens is we win over these vices very easily, because these vices are nothing but because of the body consciousness which is there in the soul, right? So this is what we have to do. And now realize that every vice is not positive for me. Every vice is negative for me. Sometimes we feel that lust will give us, pleasure. It will give us happiness, or anger will give me power. It will give me control. So we attach these vices with some of the other attainments. We feel that when I have attachment with someone, that is love. But when we realize that these vices are not my friend, it attacks my consciousness, the way I think, then we are able to leave these vices. These vices are always, going to hurt me, or are of no benefit to me. Just for instance, if suppose I am getting angry, I realize that how much I lose by becoming angry. I lose my good vibrations, how uneasy I feel when I become angry, how my relationship is affected when with the other person when I get angry. So whenever you will count on each flaw separately, you will realize that each vice separately, that it is not my friend but my enemy. For instance, sometimes we feel that thoda lobh to hona chahiye. We should have a little. We have to be a little bit greedy, and otherwise, how will we earn, right? And that is where we give vices. We allow vices to be there within all of us. But when I realize that by being greedy, I will perform wrong karma. For example, if in in my office I charge uh, fee of rupees 1,000 for doing a certain work. Let's say for filing an income tax return, I charge 1,000 rupees, just for example. And some guy come to my office, and I realize that he is not aware of filing process. I might charge him a little extra by earning. That is where greed pops in, and I tell him that the charges for filing ITR is 2,000 rupees, and I overcharge him with 1,000 rupees. So I can see instant result of that I am getting 1,000 extra rupees, I am earning extra money. But I don't realize that by doing that I have performed a negative karma which will have a negative repercussion. And that is what will happen some or the other day. I will have to spend 1,000, 1,500, or any amount extra for that. So when I realize at the time of using any vice, when I realize that it is going to harm me, I cannot put anything extra in my pocket by thugging someone else. uh, I can get rid of these vices. So by deeply realizing that these vices are not going to help me, are uh, not for my good, I can leave these vices. So summing it up, we have to realize that Dussehra, it teaches us three very significant lessons. Number one is we have to become very patient in our lives. Uh, we have to always take the side of goodness rather than taking the side of negativity. Number two realization is I have to deeply self check, because we all have blind spots. By deeply self checking, I will be realizing my flaws, and that realization will uh, lead to a good change in me, because change comes from realization, not only from information. Sometimes you have the information, but as as long as you don't realize it, it doesn't lead to a change, right? For example, if suppose I get angry on one person, and that person is affected, I have the information that I got angry. But as long as I don't realize that anger is wrong, as long as I don't realize that I have done something wrong, I will not change. So even after having information, until and unless we don't have a realization, it doesn't lead to a change. So that is why self checking leads to great, deeper realizations of our own flaws. And as soon as we realize the flaw, that I have this flaw, there pops up a plan of action. There pops up a deep need or desire to get over those vices, right? Or that shortcoming which I have. So always, if you wish to progress in your life, I have heard about this guy who used to every week, after every week, he used to self check that how he's doing wrong communication. He used to always check on everything in his business uh, that he's doing, and thereby he was able to point out a lot of flaws in his practices, in his business practices, and gradually, he overcame that, and he became very famous and very, successful monetarily. Why? Because he had this habit of self checking himself. Likewise, if you wish to progress in any field in your life, always give time to self checking. Always point out, note down your flaws, and always have a plan of action towards working them. And number three lesson is to we have to kill these 10 vices which are there within all of us. And that is when the Ravana is going to be finished. There is no point in every time going to some ground and hitting the Ravana with fireworks and being happy and clapping and coming back, because every next year the Ravana will come back. Every next year we'll do the same thing. Every next year we will make the Ravana a little bit bigger, because the flaws which are inside of us are getting bigger every time. So uh, in true essence, the Dussehra will be celebrated when the Ravana within all of us is killed. When we take the path of patience, when we take the path of right karmas over wrong karmas, and when we take the path of deep self introspection and deep self changing, right? So this is the spiritual essence of Dussehra, which we all need to imbibe and inculcate in our lives, and that will only lead to true celebration of uh, this festival, which we are celebrating right from the childhood with a lot of zeal and enthusiasm. And that is what God says, that is what Paramatma says, that you don't have to celebrate, you have to become. है ना? बनाना नहीं है, मनाना नहीं है, लेकिन बनना है, which means के ऐसा, it doesn't mean that you don't have to be happy or don't have to celebrate. It means uh, as long as you are celebrating, you're also focused on self changing, self checking, and self transformation, right? So this is what we have learned today. I hope that you will keep these points in your mind, and rather than only celebrating, you will uh, start working towards your inner well-being, and which will lead to a happy and healthier life in true essence. And this is what I feel the Shera has to teach all of us. Thank you for joining today's session. We will meet some other day soon. Have a great and wonderful time. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.